Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I've had this request for a while, a couple of messages here and there about doing a complete walk around of the crawler. So this is going to be a video just over getting all the details on this truck and what we did, uh, kind of the whole build, why we did it and why I thought it needed to be this way. So this is my 85 K20. This truck started out as a single cab long bed. Wheelbase was 131.5 inches. It was just a regular old pickup. Like, it was far away from where it is now. So I kind of had this vision in my head, and like most people, I hit Marketplace a lot and saw this truck with this paint job. Had to have it because I liked the paint job, and it was this exact color but just faded from 1985. So we'll just start from the front and go to the back, guys. So one thing I knew I had to have on my truck was a Warn winch. So I put a Warn 12S winch on it. It's got the synthetic line on it. Really like it. I actually built these bumpers out of 2-inch square tubing myself. I went with square inch 2-inch tubing because it's a square body truck, and I like square tubing because I think it looks beefy, and I think also it kind of has the whole theme of the truck being a square body, and we use square tubing. So I felt like it flowed really well. Also, I knew I was going to do coilover suspension because I had been doing a little bit of research. So whenever I started this build, I automatically called Off-Road Design because they make a ton of stuff for full-size rigs. You guys know I preach it all the time. If you have a full-size rig, Ford, Chevy, Dodge, doesn't matter. Off-Road Design probably has what you need to make it happen. So speaking of Off-Road Design, so I went with the 4-link suspension kit on this truck, and I used Off-Road Design's spec'd coilovers. They have King coilovers and shocks that are from Fox, and so I went with their spec coilovers, the Kings, because that's what they had available at the time. They did not make a kit for the Super Duty Dana 60, which brings me to another reason I went with this axle. This is kind of sacrilegious. I went with a Ford Super Duty Dana 60 from an '05 F-250 up front. I wanted to do it because I had never seen it before, and I also know how beefy these axles are. If you guys follow Busted Knuckle Off-Road, they use these axles religiously, and they just beat on them, and they're just heavy duty. I also went with reed knuckles on this Super Duty Dana 60. I went with ball joint eliminators as well from Busted Knuckle because they are heavy duty on the top. You're not going to have to worry about it breaking. Gearing wise, with the axles, I went with 488 from Yukon. The gearing I thought was going to be right where it needed to be. I've had 456s in the past on another truck. I liked them, but I wanted that 488 for the extra gearing. I also went with ARB air lockers, front and rear. I feel like the ARBs are, obviously a well-known locker that work really well. There's no issues with them. They have very few issues, I should say. And I knew that I was going to put an ARB air compressor on it with a tank, so kind of just went hand in hand. I also went with a little bit different engine setup than what these trucks came with. This truck had a 454 carbureted gas engine in it. I went with a 2008 model 6.2 LS3 out of a Cadillac Escalade. So LS powered, a little bit easier to get parts for. They make a lot of power. They're like 405 horsepower in stock form. So when I took the engine out of the Escalade that I got, I also wanted to kind of upgrade that. So I went to Texas Speed and bought their Stage 2 cam for it. I also went with the updated lifters, push rods, heads, the whole gasket set. I went with the non-DOD and VVT camshaft, and that really helped because I was able to add a little bit more power into it. Also, I went with Holley Terminator on the fuel side system of the truck. It's really simple, guys. It's a super easy setup. I mean, you can literally put a Holley fuel system and have the truck running on an LS engine on any car that you can imagine or truck. It just plug and play. They only send you the actual hookups and connectors that you need to get your truck running for your series of engine. So I really have been happy with the Holley. The Terminator's awesome. I've never had any other system on the Holley setup. I have never had the Sniper, but I've had the Terminator, and I really, really like it. Highly recommend it. It's worked great. I put a little over 2,000 miles on this truck and have had zero issues. I also, to piggyback off of that, I went with a 4L80 transmission, which is a 1-ton transmission, and it's an upgraded transmission. I did some research and I went with Maximum Off-Road Transmissions out of California. Thanks, Chris, for taking care of me. I called him and bugged him. He gave me a ton of ideas on what I might need and kind of gave me some ideas on what I could see performance-wise out of the transmission on the trail. They do a lot of transmissions for buggies and bouncers. They do a ton of stuff with the off-road industry. They're huge, and he was able to answer all my questions. Great company. If you guys are looking for a transmission, Maximum, they're great. Call Chris, he'll take care of you. But I went with the 4L80. It's a full manual valve body. So what that means is I can shift every gear. Still an automatic transmission, but I can shift every gear 1 through 4. And then in 4th gear, it has a toggle switch for the lockup of the torque converter. So when I get it into 4th gear and I'm cruising down the highway, you flip the toggle switch on for 4th gear, drops the RPMs down because it locks up the torque converter. Love that setup on here. It is so nice. I can be at 70 miles an hour at 1900 RPMs whenever the torque converter is locked in. It is so awesome when you're driving down the road. It is perfect. Can't ask for a better transmission. Behind that, I have a Ford MP205 out of a 79 F250. Reason I went with the Ford MP205 is because obviously I use the Ford Super Duty Dana 60 front axle, and so it's got the driver's side drop for the pumpkin. So I needed to have a Ford transfer case for that to drop on the right side for the drive shaft. It's a twin stick 205. It's the regular run-of-the-mill 205 setup besides twin stick. But behind that is where the magic happens. I went with an off-road design Magnum box, and it's just another gear reduction box behind the 205, which gives me a double low gear, and it just makes this thing driving it a monster whenever you're in double low. You never lose traction, and it is tough. The shaft that goes in this Magnum is what they're famous for. It's huge. I mean, it is twice the size of the stock shaft that runs from the 205 to the Magnum. The output shaft it's great. You guys, if you're looking for a gear reduction box, there's a couple on the market, but Off-Road Design has it figured out. They've had this thing in production for well over 10 years, and I have had zero problems, and it makes this thing on another level when you go off-road. You will not be disappointed if you buy one. Shout out to Steven at Off-Road Design. He was able to help me a ton on this truck. You guys see, I'm a huge fan. I used a ton of parts from Off-Road Design to make this thing what it is and wheel the way it does. I also went with the Tom Woods drive shafts. They're a well-known company. I have had zero issues out of them. They have been great. I went with heavy wall tubing on the out of the 205 and out of the Magnum. They do great, no issues. I really like pickup trucks. I'm a full-size pickup guy. My first truck, a lot of people don't know this, was an 85 C10, which is a 2-wheel drive pickup with 305 with dual tanks. It needed dual fuel tanks because I never passed a fuel station, I swear. But I was in high school, so it kept me in line. So I've really enjoyed having it. So this being an 85, the same truck, but a 4-wheel drive, it's just kind of cool to be able to relive it. Actually, enjoy driving this thing daily because of how cool it is, but also how drivable it is. And that's another thing I was going to bring up about this truck is this isn't hard to drive, and it's not a dedicated wheeling rig. I can drive this thing over the highway, no problem, all day long. One of the big reasons why is I put Vintage Air in it. I called Vintage Air and said, hey, I want to make sure that I get the right setup for my truck. And they were able to send me a kit and hooked me up with the right tools to be able to do all the whole AC system in my shop. I didn't have to go anywhere. So I really highly recommend the Vintage Air system. They make it for the LS when you're doing a swap into any vehicle to be able to use any AC compressor you want. So highly recommend that. I really like having AC in this thing. It makes it super comfortable when this Oklahoma heat, like today, it's supposed to be up to 104 degrees. It just makes it so much more bearable. Inside, I had got a fully built cage. I started from scratch on the cage, guys. I never really was into tubing or bending tubing, and so I had to learn quick exactly what to do. I got the halo bent up already. It was pre-bent, but all the other bends I did myself. It took a lot of time and patience and messing up the tubing to get it to where it is now. And it's not perfect, but it's safe and it's strong and it does a really good job. I'm really happy with it. I also inside have PRP seats. I love PRP seats. They're comfortable. You don't get fatigued when you're driving this truck with these seats. They're comfortable. 100% love the way they're set up. I was able to customize a 3 in the back of the seat cover itself. So that's really cool. I like that. Which you'll see on this truck, that's a theme. There's a Dale Earnhardt 3 over the majority of the truck in different places. I tried to make it hide and kind of make it, something you see. I also made it to where it has some diamond plate because I love diamond plate, tread plate. I think it looks good. So I accented a lot of the truck with diamond plate. Felt like it flowed with the truck and my build, and what I like is kind of my flavor. So I went with the diamond plate. You'll see it if you look at it closely. Also on the inside, I have rugged radios so I can talk to everybody on the trail. I've got the rugged radio headsets that are awesome for when you're driving on long trips or down the road. You don't have to worry about road noise and you can talk to the person beside you. It is cool. It's Bluetooth to your phone or your radio where you can actually listen to music so you're not hearing a bunch of background noise. So that's really cool. Thanks to Rugged Radios for hooking me up with the right setup. I love it. Inside also, I got a removable PRP steering wheel. I love that. So I can pull it off and I can just hang out. We can have, lunch on the trail, which is kind of cool. Also inside, I got the console itself is a Tuffy console from a Jeep. I know you guys might be disappointed that I use a Jeep part on here, but it's a universal console. I went with the Tuffy console. It's got a really nice armrest on it and cup holders, and it's sweet. I really like it. It's got a huge area on the inside where I can store stuff. It's lockable, so I can put valuables in there if I needed to. I really like having the ability to lock it and take the key with me just in case, because I can lock this truck up, but square bodies, they have the sliding window in the back, so they're not that hard to break into, as you guys know. Also on my truck, I started out with the vision of having a trail bed because I wanted the ability to not have to worry about body panels, because all the videos and stuff, research that I had done, I had seen that, body panels get beat up and they get caved in. And so I started from scratch with the trail bed. And I also used the square tubing like we talked about earlier because it's strong, number one. And number two, it matches the build. And it's also something I like to work with. When I started using square tubing, I was building fire truck beds for different cities on my days off when I'm not a fireman. And so I was getting a lot of experience building out of square tubing. So this just felt right. It went hand in hand with what I'd been working on, building beds and fabricating these fire truck, brush truck beds. So I used the square tubing on the back. I built a headache rack around it out of square tubing. I did the bed on the back, has a dovetail. I like the approach angle this truck has and the descent angle when I'm going down obstacles, because it just barely flows off the back of the axle, the back of the truck, and it doesn't hang up on stuff. It's really tough. This truck has pretty wide axles, being that it's the Super Duty Dana 60 in the front, and it's got a 14 bolt in the rear. So also on the bed, when I put the sheet metal on it, I made it to be pretty simple. So it's not like super heavy. I didn't go with the most heavy gauge stuff, but I made it stout. I braced it up really well. I also put 2 buyer's toolboxes on the back, one on each side, and that holds all my tools that I'm gonna need, A to Z. I'm a mechanic, and so I have trouble with not bringing tools and parts that I know that are gonna break. And so that's my downfall. My truck that probably should weigh 5,500 pounds weighs almost 7,000 pounds because I have tools and parts that I think that might break. Oh well, it's part of it. That's just who I am, so that's what I do. Also on the back of the bed, I kind of integrated the spare tire into the back of the bed where it laid down flat, because I'd seen over years and years of watching YouTube and different people on there with full-size rigs have their tire standing straight up. I felt like it was like a sore thumb. It stuck out, and I just didn't like it. For obviously looking out the back of the truck, you can't see. So I integrated that spare tire with rim, where it would actually lay down flat where I could keep it all out of the way. Also on the bed, I made a custom storage rack. And the reason for that is I needed to be able to have a place for my fridge freezer, also for extra fuel cans in case I need gas. They're lockable, which really is nice, and they're secure so they're not rattling around. And then also the Milwaukee pack out system that I got, I put the base on that rack where I can slide it in and take as little or as much supply wise or camping wise that I need. Really like the Milwaukee pack out setup. It works great. Also on the back, I got a couple of old school ammo cans, and that carries mostly the extra parts like plugs and wires, oil filter, just you name it, tubing for the ARB, uh, extra fluids. I mean, I've got yokes in there, U-joints. Guys, that's my one of my downfalls. I carry everything that I think I might break. So I have multiple storage areas on this truck, and pretty proud of it because I'm able to pack 10 pounds of junk into a 2-pound bag basically on the back and still be able to wheel it really hard, and it does good. Out back underneath the bed, I've got a 14-bolt rear axle that came with this truck. It's a full float 14 bolts. They're just legendary, guys. They're heavy duty. They work good. No problems with that axle. They're just proven. It's also got 488 gears, Yukon. It's also got ARB as well. It's got chrome moly axle shafts, just like the front does. I cannot complain one bit. These axles have been nothing but good to me. Up front, I got the worn hubs for the front axle. They're really nice. They're like butter going in. You cannot complain about the heavy dutiness of this Super Duty 60 and the 14-bolt axle in the rear. It just works, guys. This truck is sitting on 40s at the moment. I also have made this truck to where I can fit 42s because I have 42-inch tall Nitto Trail Grappler stickies. So I like those wheels and tires, but they're really not wheels and tires you want to go on a camping or a road trip or a UA style of trip. These are DOT approved. These are Pro Comp MT2s. Really have liked these for going off road. The first year I went to Moab, I love the performance of these. They sound good on the road. They're not super loud, and they actually grip really well. I also went with Dirty Life beadlocks. These are roadkills. I love the way they look. They're light. They've been good to me. I haven't had any issues out of them. I went with the same exact wheel and tire for my 42s because I had to go to a 20-inch tall tire. This being a 17-inch tire for the 40s is pretty common in the off-road world. So it actually makes the truck sit a little bit lower, which I really like for getting in and out of. It's tough whenever you're getting in and out of it all day, being on 42s because it's way up there. On the sides, guys, I literally trimmed out on the side of the truck where the doors are. I trimmed out about 8 inches of the door panel and also the rocker panel. The reason I did that was to get that point up where my rock sliders were as far to the top of the cab where it meets your, where your floorboard is. I got it up as high as I could. That way I would have as much clearance as possible. A lot of people don't know, but on the difference between a K20 and a K30 frame in these square bodies is the K30 frame is almost 2 inches deeper. So it's a little bit thicker of a frame in depth. And so you gain a little bit of, on the K20 side, you gain a little bit of clearance because the frame isn't as tall, which I like that. So what I did to compensate for that, before I started building anything, I went and took the cab off and everything, and I took 3/8 plate and I plated the inside of the frame from front to back. Some people would say that's overkill, but that's just my style. I love making things way more stout than they have to be, making it last. And this thing has had 0 problems. You guys watch it on video, when you see it wheeling, you do not see the frame flexing. The only thing it's flexing and moving is the suspension. It's doing its job. It's working as it was intended to be. The suspension itself, like I said, came from Off-Road Design. The Kings are Off-Road Design coilover. They're spec to their specs. I really like their setup. They are 14-inch coilovers in the front. I've got 16-inch King coilovers in the back. I've run them at 200 PSI on the nitrogen. I've been really happy with them. I tried 120. I tried 150, but the 200 seems to be the sweet spot. I'm running Radflow bump stops. They work really good. They're just a 2-inch bump stop. Can't complain about them. I bottomed this thing out running about 45 miles an hour down a wash with James Jenkins in Sand Hollow, and I could have swore something was going to be blown apart because I had to pull over because it jarred my teeth so bad. And it did nothing. The truck did fine. It did its job. The bump stops worked. Didn't even crack a weld. It did wonderful. Kept on driving, wheeled it the whole rest of the week, no problems. I am impressed with how well that the bump stops held up and didn't blow out. It did great. Cool. On the front suspension, the rear suspension, I did 4-link. So on the front, I did the off-road design 4-link brackets from like a early 90s Ford pickup. And I actually had to graft those brackets in to this Super Duty 60. So you can see if you look at the axle, there's quite a bit of cut up pieces and geometry going on. It's because I had to get a brand new bracket from Off-Road Design, cut it into 100 pieces, it seemed like, that was beautiful, and hack job it, and then kind of graft it onto this Super Duty 60. It took me about 2 weeks to get it all grafted on, but I'm really proud of that because it all works like it's supposed to. To make that work, I had to move the front axle 2.5 inches forwards, which also made me move the steering gearbox 2.5 inches forwards as well to make the geometry of the suspension and the drag link all work. Also on the 4-link, I'm running the Off-Road Design 250 wall upper DOM tubes, and then on the bottom 4-link bars, I'm running wide open design 2.5-inch solid aluminum link bars. The reason I did that is I went to K20 and did some wheeling and I had 250 wall bottom link bars, and I bent 3 of the 4 and they were 250 wall. So the only upgrade that I knew was to go with solid aluminum after asking a couple of guys, called Wide Open, and they were able to get me these sent out. I also had them custom engrave a Dale Earnhardt 3 on the link bars, so that's super cool. I love the little small details on this truck. That's one of those things. Can't complain one bit about that. The main reason that I started building this, guys, is I love square bodies, but number 2, I wanted to be able to throw my hat in the ring and get a chance to go on Ultimate Adventure, which you guys probably know by now is no longer a thing. Now Christian has and Trent have basically taken it over and made it something new. It's still called UA, but it's called Unreal Adventure. And I also put in for that because I'm excited. I hope I get picked. But that's the reason why I started building this the way I did. And I kind of wanted to make it a road ready rig and kind of given me a little bit of, I guess you could say, fuel to the fire to build it in a way that it could go anywhere, drive down the highway, go off-road, be able to camp out of. I wanted to make it to where it was the right wheelbase based on what I had seen, what did well on UA in the past years, and then some of the guys that I've watched on YouTube. So I ended up with 120 inches of wheelbase on this truck. So I went from 131.5 to 120 inches. And I honestly can say I love 120 inches. I had it at 118 for a little while, but I ended up going to 120, adjusting it out. I really like the way 120 sits. I like the way it wheels off-road. It just does really, really good. I cannot complain about the way it wheels, guys. This thing has been to Moab multiple times. I went to K20, I've been to Sand Hollow, and it's knocked it out of the park. If you guys follow Full Size Invasion, it's been on there every single time we've been out wheeling. It's been on there every time, and it continues to be pretty impressive on there. I went with, like I said, the 2-tone paint job that this truck came with. This is the factory colors that this called for back in '85, just freshened up. So when I redid it, I was like, man, I'm going to go back with the 2-tone, the dark blue over the light blue. And even though you can't tell on the bottom, which I do have some trail rash on the doors, you can, if I had the rocker panel that was still there, you would be able to see all of the blue that was below. So it worked out pretty good. You can see on these fenders, guys, I custom made them. This is something I learned with the brush trucks that I was building. Is you're running up against trees and rocks and stuff and you're fighting fire, they needed something to deflect and not tear up the bed. So I just got some 1/2-inch round stock, and I got my torch out in Rosebud, and bent this around the flimsy sheet metal that's on all the cars nowadays, and welded it in solid. And I actually hooked it from the bumper all the way to the rock slider. So it makes it to where it brushes off anything. And even if it does get into it, it's pretty stout. It's just gonna bend this and I'll be able to heat it back up and bend it back out. So pretty proud of that. That's kind of my design. I like the way it's set up. I can't complain about the way that looks. I feel like the body line for that matches perfectly with the square body line. I can't ask for any more whenever it's tough, it looks good, and it wheels good. That's my goal. Biggest thing that I was surprised by that I've used every single time that I've had this truck out wheeling is a welder. I got an onboard welder on this truck. It's called the Premier Power Welder. If you guys don't know about them, you ought to look them up. I have used this welder every single time we went out wheeling. Not on my truck specifically, but on somebody else's drive shaft, link bars, frame. I think the last time we went out wheeling, I think I welded somebody's bed, tacked something on. I mean, this thing is so versatile. You can run 70-18, 60-11, any rod that you want to run, and it'll run beautiful. Like, it's not like one of those cracker box welders that puts a decent one that's going to stick. This welder puts down an awesome bead, and it gets great penetration on the weld. You guys will not have any problems with it. It's a whole charging system and welder in one. So it's got a 110 outlet, so you can run, a microwave if you wanted to. You can run a Sawzall if you wanted to. If you didn't have a battery packed one, you can run a grinder off of it. You can also run any welding rod that you want to run off of it. It is just a godsend. It's a little box. It's just, small. It has leads that hook up to it. I put it under my dash to keep the water and dust and anything off of it, but fits right behind where my glove box should be. Really like the placement of it. It looks good, it welds good, and I'm super surprised how much I use it. It has its own alternator, so it can run off of the welder itself. It runs that alternator. It's super good. Shout out to the guys at Premier Power Welder. Caleb took care of me. He got me set up, and it's for this LS engine. It's not a one size fits all, but they make a specific kit just for the LS power plant. I run an Odyssey battery in this. It's a deep cell AGM, and I can run that welder for 90 minutes straight if I wanted to without charging that battery because it's such a good AGM deep cell battery. That's one of the things I have never had. I spent the extra money on this AGM battery, and it's awesome. It runs my fridge freezer for days off of no charge. It'll run the battery or all the power systems, including the Holley and the welder, and not even be charging for hours and hours. And then it takes a charge. I've had this battery run down once completely because someone left a light on. Don't know who that would be, but they left the light on. It ran the battery completely dead. Normally on a regular battery, you're going to have to go get it switched out. This one, threw a trickle charger on it. In 12 hours, it was back to normal. And it's never missed a beat. So I love the Odyssey batteries. You guys can't ask for better performance than that. I went with a lot of the bezels and the original setup on this truck. You guys can tell I left it full size. A lot of guys that have these trucks will pinch the nose in, which what I mean by that is they take this fender and the lights and they move them in and they move the fender in and kind of shape it where it pinches the nose down. I don't like the way that looks, and also I feel like that it kind of takes away from the full size rig. So I left it this way. I like it to be a full size, full width, and I wheel it hard, guys. I think it works out good. Now, obviously, when I was in Sand Hollow, you guys, if you look back on the videos, I put a pretty good slam on that side on a rock. But that's part of doing business, as we say. It's just gonna happen. On the back, I got trail bed, I have nothing to worry about. But on the front, it happened. I really like the full-size look. This is not shortened down at all. This is the full width of the truck. So one of the things that I had to do when I moved this axle forwards is I had to do a lot of trimming and cutting on the front of this. And so basically the only thing left on the inside, on the back of the lights is just the headlight bezels themselves and the brackets. It was really, really tricky, especially with the 42s, to get it to all fit, but it fits. And I did that by cutting out most of the core support that would have ran out all the way to the outside of the fender. Luckily, I have this 1/2 inch round stock that I was talking about that kind of makes this stout and keeps this from flopping around. So it makes it to where it's really, really nice and it stays put. I like the way it looks. The full-size way is what I'm all about. The 4-link kit in the back is from Barnes 4-wheel drive. I really like their kit. It's super easy to work with. I went with their 4-link kit mainly because the price point is on the money. It is great. It's tough. It's proven. And they got a universal kit that you can put on basically any truck that has a frame or vehicle that has a frame. It worked great. I bought the truss that goes on the 14 bolt. It fits like awesome. It welded on so nice. I went with their diff cover kit that goes over the front that covers the pinion. I really like the quality of their stuff. Barnes kit was awesome. I went with their 250 wall uppers, and I also went with the wide open aluminum bottom 4-link bars as well, just to be able to say I got them front and back and they all match. But how easy it was to get Barnes 4-wheel drive kit on there was awesome. It just didn't take anything. The rear kit went so much faster than putting on the 4-link kit on the front because there's way less to worry about. There's not as much real estate. So can't say enough about Barnes 4-wheel drive. Those guys did awesome. I can't complain one bit. It's worked great. And I went with the Johnny joints as well, just like I did Johnny joints in the front of the 4-link. Worked great. So that's one thing I can't say enough about. I really like Barnes. They make quality parts. I've used them on brackets for shock tabs. I've used them on the 4-link setup on the front whenever I was working on the limiting straps. I used some of their tabs. You can buy tons of different cutouts from them for universal applications, and it works great. For the steering on this truck, I went with PSC. It's a hydro assist. Now, a lot of people ask me, I've had comments, why didn't you go with full hydro? This truck goes on the road all the time. I drive it to town to go to lunch sometimes. Like, this is a cruiser. I bring my son in it, my daughter. I mean, we have a good time with this truck. So the thing I don't like about the hydro assist, or I do like about the hydro assist versus the full hydro, is if a hose goes out on a full hydro and you lose pressure, you can't steer the vehicle anymore. I don't like the idea of that. So I went with the hydro assist, which is still a power steering pump. Has the ram that goes on the axle itself and for the tie rod ends, and it actually moves it back and forth. But if you lose a hose, you can actually still steer the vehicle because it has a pitman arm. It's still connected. It may not be as good as steering, but you're not going to lose complete control of it. So if I had a more dedicated wheeling only rig, I probably would be okay with doing a full hydro. But for reasons that I just said, that's why I'm sticking with the hydro assist. And Off-Road Design offers this as a kit for my setup. So I was able to use it. It came pretty much all sorted out. All the connections to the hydro assist part, all connections to the steering box. PSC sent the steering box. It also comes with all the hoses that hooks up to the stock set up on the truck, which is the Hydro Boost. And so it all works. There's a lot of hydros going on right now, but it all works like it's supposed to. I went with KC lights. I've just got those on the front. I'm planning on putting some rock lights on it here in the not so distant future, and getting it where when it's lit up on the trail off-road at night, you can see it. Haven't got there yet. One thing that I also upgraded on this truck was I had ARB electronic locker switches, and I went with the Power Tank Air pneumatic switches. The reason why is I had some trouble with the lockable switches, the solenoids, whenever I was in Moab last. I didn't like the way they were set up. The pneumatic switches from Power Tank, if you have air pressure and flip the switch on, the locker's gonna get air no matter what. So if you got good air lines and the switch is good, it's gonna work. So I really like Power Tank's air switches for this rig. I think it worked really, really good for these lockers. It's the only way to go. It's for any other truck I build, it'll be getting the Power Tank air switches that are pneumatic for the lockers. Also in the back, for cooling, I did not run the transmission coolers through the radiator. I went with a Be Cool radiator on the front that is solely only cooling the engine itself. It's a 3-row aluminum B-Cool radiator that's made for LS swaps. It runs at 200 degrees solidly all the time. Hot, cold, doesn't matter, keeps everything good. In the back, I went Durali transmission coolers. I have dual transmission coolers to make sure I have no problems with this thing and make sure I don't have any cooling issues. I really like the Durali products. I went with some 3/8 line that runs from the transmission all the way back, and then it runs from there to the front of the transmission, no issues. Really like Durali's setup. In the back, I didn't like, on these square bodies, normally they have a saddle tank, and I knew I'd be dragging this thing all over the place. So I went with the Holley fuel cell. It's 20 gallons. Also, I went with their Holley retrofit tank that has the pump kit that allows you to drop down inside of there and adjust the tank level. It has a Hydra mat from Holley that no matter how much fuel is in there, it's going to suck the fuel up, even if it's in the far corners. That works awesome because when you're off camber, you're going up and down. You never have to worry about the fuel pump starving for fuel. That works great. I have zero issues. I went with a Holley fuel pressure regulator. Basically, the ignition system, the fuel system as a whole is completely 1000% Holley. I love it. It's been great. Their tech support's good. I also like the Terminator system on this truck because I can hook my laptop into it. I can figure out what's going on with it. It has one O2 sensor, and you can make it to where the O2 sensor stops working. The truck's still going to run because it reverts back to where it's supposed to be. So really like the truck. I think I've went over everything on it. Probably, I cannot stress enough on taking your build slow and just getting quality parts. And I love this truck. Hope you guys have enjoyed it so far. Hopefully you guys see it a lot more, and we're going to keep wheeling it hard.